Babe, are you good on firewood? All right. I'm going to be out here a few more minutes. Love you. Welcome back to Table 17. We're going to start right where we left off, and we're in Chapter 7, and this is for our Wednesday class on February the 14th, which is Valentine's Day. Here we go. The harlot is drunk with the blood of the saints, verse 6. Oh, how she loves to persecute the prophets, ! She tries to bewitch and deceive and compromise them. If there is any way she can overcome the prophets of God, she'll do it! John the Baptist, a symbol of the prophetic voice crying out in the wilderness, was killed by the great harlot in the form of a mother who despised the truth and told her daughter, use your body to entice Herod. Compromise him so that he will promise to give you whatever you ask. Who killed John the Baptist? He was killed by the whore Babylon, a religion, a system, an attitude. This is all part of Babylon, the great whore. The beast who ascends from the bottomless pit from below, verse 8, operates under a limited and seasonal time as denoted by was and is not and yet is. There is nothing permanent about the beast. The beast, he may assume one form in one generation and another form in another generation, but he always represents kingdoms and systems that have been and are to be. Some of those kingdoms have already existed and passed away. Old Babylon, Assyria, New Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greco-Macedonia. You know, I was watching that series on the making of a god, little g, and that's the whole story of Alexander the Great, how he went and he came out of Mesopotamia and then conquered all these places. And so Egypt and Persia and Babylon was over there in Persia. And so that was it's kind of a crazy story, but I sort of saw some of that, and that's one of the things I thought of as I was reading this. Some of those kingdoms have already existed and passed away. Old Babylon, Assyria, New Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greco-Macedonia. These 5 kingdoms are passed away before John's revelation. And the 6th kingdom, and the one that was Rome. The 7th kingdom is yet to come. Trouble, though, with Alexander lived to be about 30 years old, did some conquering, and probably was the beginning of what we might consider the modern world. But he died at such a young age, just mysteriously, just passed away. Genesis chapter 10 and verse 8 describes a man only a few generations removed from Adam and Eve, named Nimrod, who was the first man to found an earthly kingdom. Babel, later Babylon. Because of his influence, the people of Babel, who spoke the same language, united so that God said, now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Genesis chapter 11, verse 6. And he confounded their language so that they could no longer understand one another. Revelation chapter 17 and verse 13 says, these have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. The oneness of mind of the beast is also incomprehensible. When a corporation makes up its mind, it can influence the entire world with one short slogan. If I say, be good to yourself, it brings to mind a kingdom of the good life. If the church ever surpassed the world in unity of purpose, the kingdom of God would actually be established in reality on the earth. I'm going to read it again. If the church ever surpassed the world in unity of purpose, the kingdom of God would actually be established in reality on the earth. Instead of unity, we hear these predominant words in the church. Schism. Who's governing? Who's going to get the new members? Who's going to get the honor? Battling for position. Turf guarding. That is why Jesus prayed in John chapter 17 and verse 21, Father, make them one, that the world may know. The fivefold ministry was given to bring us into the unity of faith, and even now the whole world waits for the manifestation of the sons of God. The lack of unity among God's people is one of the main reasons that there has and yet been no manifestation of the sons of God. Wouldn't hurt sometimes if I get to be a little busy or if I'm swinging a little too much on the swing. Just look away and listen, because the words are going to be great. Nimrod married a very beautiful woman who not only was a harlot, but also boasted about the fact that she was. Nimrod was responsible for unifying a people who built the Tower of Babel. The very spirit of that tower was one of selfishness, as Nimrod assured himself that he would not be forgotten. When Nimrod died, the people had already defied him because he had created such a powerful earthly kingdom. Everybody thought he must be a god, because never before had there been such an earthly kingdom. After Nimrod's death, his wife was left alone with no strengths of her own to sustain her. So in her harlotry, she became pregnant and claimed that it was a birth ordained of the gods. She claimed that she had reincarnated from her womb her husband Nimrod. This husband-child that she bore then became the object of a religion, and Nimrod's name was changed to Zoroaster. That is the same religion, Zoroastrianism, that is spoken of in Revelation as the seat of this godless woman, the mother of harlots. Zoroastrianism Zoroastrianism spread around the world, and when we speak of the mother of harlots, this is her origin. She and her husband, son, were both defiled. Encyclopedia of Religion, Volume 2, page 398. Herodias History, Book 2, page 109. Excuse me. The United States is by no means excluded from Babylon's influences. We, of all nations of the earth, have said, let us make a name for ourselves, exclamation mark. We get out, we go to the moon, we get to the moon first. We have more missiles. We have the biggest army and navy. We'll have the most advanced technology, and we hide, making a name for ourselves under the cloak of freedom. We go into little nations around the world to quell rebellions or cruel forms of government, and we do it in the name of freedom. Who has made us rule, or who made us to rule or to judge? The great harlot has done it because she continually invites us to make a name for ourselves. There is such a mixture of Babylon and the bride that it is often impossible to separate the two. When Nimrod's people unified to build the Tower of Babel, they did so out of a spirit of selfishness. We must learn the difference between selfishness and selflessness. That is what the Apostle Paul meant by dying to self. The kingdom of God cannot be born until we die to ourselves. We have become so preoccupied with preaching about the externals that it is no wonder that God said, do not look on the outside of a man. Look on the inside. Look at the heart. John said that there is yet a seventh kingdom to come, and I believe that represents the age in which we are living now. Up to this point, the five historical kingdoms that have passed away, Rome, being the sixth, are readily definable and identifiable kingdoms. The seventh kingdom is not so easily to identify. It exists in the interim period before Christ comes again, and the number 7 applied to this kingdom indicates its stand in the perfection in opposition to Jesus Christ. When the seventh kingdom comes, it will continue for a short space, and this is the church age, which wars against the seventh kingdom and exists for only a short time compared to the total existence of mankind. The eighth kingdom is the beast himself and lays siege against the church in the period of Gog and Magog. I believe that we are approaching that last siege when the great powers of the beast will be loosed against the church, and we will know tribulation as never known before. The 10 horns in verse 12 represent the 10 kingdoms the whore has produced. Although the list might vary, I believe the following 10 kingdoms will be included. First, the kingdom of art. Second, the kingdom of education, which began with God when God told Adam and Eve to leave the tree of the knowledge of good and evil alone. Third, the kingdom of commerce. Fourth, the kingdom of industry. Fifth, the kingdom of government. Sixth, the kingdom of sports. The seventh kingdom of the whore is the kingdom of beauty. Who is it that tells us we'll be beautiful and irresistible if we follow the advice given in television and magazine advertising ? The great whore, who seems to always set the standards for beauty, tells us ! But the Bible tells us that the Lord will beautify our countenance. Before the kingdom of God can be birthed, there will have to be some people with the spirit of Esther who will be standard setters. But the standards of the kingdom will never be the standards that the world has set. The whore's eighth kingdom is the kingdom of wealth. Some of the most powerful businesses today sell food, drugs, clothing, and services to those concerned about the health of their bodies. Being healthy has become a religion in itself. There are people who actually live in the spas, frequent doctors' offices, participate in exercise programs or sports, as well as purchase all manner of food, drugs, or clothing to enhance their preoccupation. We'll start again in just a little bit.